Welcome, Reverend Joe Green.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. What a lovely welcome. There is a TikTok video going around from a history professor who explains a bit about the divide we are seeing in our country by identifying the psychological characteristics that attracts one type of person to a certain persona. She goes on to discuss cult characteristics, but what really attracted me to this video was with how she ended it, with a solution. She goes by the handle Jane Converse 3. She begins by defining characteristics of cult worship and how one person can attract so many followers when all others only see what is racist, sexist, and demeaning behavior. She says it's not a political party any longer, but a cult of personality. And for us to have any effect on those inside of this cult, we have to understand the how and why they are in it. First, this cult leader doesn't offer policies. They offer identity. It's not what they do, but it's what they represent. To many of their followers, they are the savior that can fix all the wrongs that have been done to them and how life and our country has failed them. She said they rage against certain groups, those that are not part of this tribe. He or she talks like them. They have said they love the poorly educated. They rage against the people that they feel are to blame for everything that is wrong in their lives. And when you have a leader that says, I'm the only one who can fix it, they believe this leader. There's a term in psychology, she says, that is called identity fusion. It's when your identity becomes fused with the group or leader. Any criticism of the leader feels like a personal attack on them. It's not that he or she is being criticized, but that I am being criticized. They then offer revenge, not solutions. They don't promise to fix health care or raise your wages or protect your rights. They promise to go after, quote, them. They rage against those who are immigrants, the press, college educated, black activists, liberals, LGBTQ plus folks, anyone who is outside of the tribe. They give them a sense of loss and tell them who stole it, and then promise to make them pay. They feel vindicated and that he or she are on their side. And to some people, that rage that they feel, that vengeance that they feel, is worth more than any policies. It doesn't fix anything, but it feels powerful. When other institutions are failing, the courts, the media, the schools, you start to look for a savior. They create the problem, and then they say they are the only one who can fix it. They're not leading a movement. They're leading a dependency, she says. They are also leading an information movement, and they are trapped in an information bubble. It's a closed-loop system, she says, which tells them on a daily basis the same news, the same information, that it's the elite's fault. The elites hate you. The press lies. Only you can believe them. It's called epistemic closure, she says. You no longer accept any other information. If the cult leader says it, it must be true, and the rest of the world is lying. Lastly, they double down on their shame. They've spent years believing, living inside the bubble, and to admit that they were wrong is just too much and is completely terrifying. Some of them deep down know that they have been conned. They see the corruption and chaos, but they have invested their identity into defending him or her. And to walk away now would be to confront shame, losing their community and admitting they were wrong. And that's terrifying to them. So instead, they dig in deeper. And finally, and this is the most important, she says, they believe that this cult leader sees them. They feel seen and heard and defended. He or she tells them, "You're not crazy. They are the ones to blame. No one else is telling the truth. Only he or she is telling the truth." So they don't believe anything else except what the cult leader is saying. And in a country where loneliness is rising, inequality is everywhere, belonging is everything. Psychology, identity, and fear. That's what it boils down to, she says. This is deliberate. It's a psychological viewpoint that is based in psychology, identity, and fear. He or she didn't create this cult. He or she just saw the cracks in our society, and he or she weaponized them. Not everyone is unreachable, she says. Some are unreachable, but others are on the edge, quiet, doubting, hurting. We don't get them back with facts. We get them back with real community, real care, and real solutions. People don't join cults when they're happy and secure. They join when they're scared, isolated, and desperate for meaning. So here's your call to action, she says. Keep speaking truth. Keep exposing the con. And when you can offer people a way out that doesn't begin with shame, but with dignity, you can reach them. This fight isn't just about defeating the cult leader, and it is a fight. It's about breaking the spell and building something better in its place. That's how we get them in. That's how we get them to abandon him or her. It was so interesting to watch her and to describe some of her words. We can create community. Where once there was none, together we can create a formidable society of kind people. I think what I am missing the most these days is kindness. And it takes courage. Courage and kindness. That's what I want more of. But how do we talk to others that don't believe or think of things the way we do? Or should we just identify with those who think like us? That doesn't seem to have proven to be so productive in our society. And a lot of the time we do exactly that. I watched a TED Talk the other day that I found fascinating. This young man named Peter began his talk about how birds are spies, that they aren't really real, that they are secret robots made to spy on us. He entitled it, "Birds Aren't Real: How a Conspiracy Takes Flight." The whole first half of the talk was about how he spent 4 years going around the country with a van, sharing this huge conspiracy theory that we had killed 12 million birds and replaced them with these robot birds that spy on us. For 4 years he did this. And then he began to talk about how his research went. Here is an excerpt I transcribed towards the end of his talk. Quote, What if by talking to conspiracy theorists like they're ignorant and stupid, we're actually pushing them farther away from the truth that we want them to see? Because what happens when someone tells you that you're stupid, you're all wrong, you're the problem? You'll feel judged and dismissed. And most importantly, you'll feel othered, which may lead you to look for safety in those who are like-minded. We have to consider that conspiracy theorists are not just joining these groups for no reason. They're getting rewards, things that we are all looking for, a sense of purpose, community. Let's direct our energy towards the crisis of belonging. What if by addressing belief before belonging, we're starting the conversation at the wrong place? Instead of sitting in collective bewilderment and frustration about how these people could believe these things, what if we first looked under the hood and thought about what made them vulnerable to this information in the first place? What might they be getting out of this that they're not getting in their everyday lives? How much does it have to do with a different truth? Or how much does it have to do with the community that that truth brings? We need to think about people's circumstances and reference points to see them as fellow human beings who want to believe in something and want to belong, just like all of us do in this room. Because if we continue with our current approach of arguing on the level of belief, it's not going to get us anywhere. We're going to end up with more echo chambers, more disinformation, and more polarization. Instead, we can do the harder work of looking into what is fueling the need for an alternate truth. Not only would this lend us more empathy for those who think differently than us, but he really thinks this might be the only actually productive means of moving toward the shared reality that we all want to live in. Let's direct our energy toward the crisis of belonging, and then maybe we will understand the crisis of belief. Unquote. When I first began writing, I thought I was going to respond to how we can create more courage in all of us to help our country to heal. And these two people with their presentations and thoughts really brought home to me what the greater issue is. What I really began to feel was the urge to look at those who are the exact opposite of us. Those folks who we might see in the grocery store or the cleaners, who we might have a passing awareness of, that we have no idea what their belief system is. They could be, and most likely are, those members of the nuns, those with no religious affiliation. What I see the desperate need for now is unification of the American people. The fear and the anger that is pervading our country is not only detrimental, but vitally damaging to ourselves. Yes, we all need to have spines and to stand up for our beliefs. And we also need to know those not like us. That can be the only way to solidify a more perfect union in this country. Oh, it's not easy. And I want to see a bond of alliance created with all of our citizens. We don't have to like each other, but we must love each other. If we as a country are going to survive as a democratic republic, we must love each other. And that takes courage. I know it's not easy. and it's a tremendous challenge to even begin such a project. Yet can we continue to exist as a country in such a defiant and unproductive way? What partnerships can we create with other Americans to begin to heal the great divide that we are now living in? How can we be creative and bold and begin a new movement to see other Americans as our partners in this great democratic experiment that we are living in? I have high hopes for a new kindness to erupt in our country, a new profound witness to what we truly are meant to be. As Rosa Parks is quoted as saying, "To this day, I believe we are here on earth to live, grow, and do what we can to make this world a better place for all people to enjoy freedom." Unquote. Reverend Barber spoke the other day on Friday in Cleveland, Ohio, for the City Club of Cleveland, and I saw it recorded that night online. In excerpts, he said, quote, "Hope is not optimism. Hope comes for many in the fight back, not outside of the fight back. Faith becomes hope when the faithful decide that that which is happening is so wrong that they can no longer accept it as it is. And when they can no longer accept it as it is and engages it, that's hope." He added later in his talk, quote, "People get released from their courage by the courageous actions of others," unquote. Let me repeat that. People get released from their courage by the courageous actions of others. That's where we need to muster our courage. When do we do courageous acts and others see it, they can become courageous too. That is our challenge right now. For things cannot stay the same for long without great harm coming to many people. We are seeing it now. So let us take our courage muscles and use them. The time is now. Take a moment this week to get to know a stranger or someone you barely know and see them as a human being, regardless of their views. For we are all human. We are all one. May it be so. Blessed be.